Hey Bob, send me an invite. Bob, what's up, my friend?
What's up, Chris?
Sitting there watching a little TV. What's up with you, brother?
That's what I'm doing. We're having a rare
Huh?
snow down this way in North Carolina. We don't get much
Really?
snow. Nah, but we've got some about 5 inches expected.
That's a lot of
And
snow.
I'm I've had I've had the flu for about 3 days. I got it from my grandson. Spent a lot of time with him. I've checked y'all out a couple of times and then talked to Mike yesterday. And
You watched any of
so
our
I really
JFK
don't.
debates?
Right when you were switching, um, my grandson called me.
Oh,
Sometimes
okay.
I'll sing him to sleep at night. So he called about the same time you were trying to join in there. But I heard you say, you and Mike, that you couldn't accommodate the two people at the time. So that was probably wouldn't have worked out anyway.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was, because it wouldn't prove you to go on.
So
So
if I
you're
look
a
like
Elvis.
this, I don't even know where Donnie was headed with his. So I didn't see that. So I'm kind of behind on what you were discussing. I know it was a twin 911, but I don't know what Mike wanted to discuss with Donnie or what y'all were into.
Well, we was in trade Tower 7, and if that could have brought it down and everything. And the guy really wasn't giving any reasons why. I was just talking about structural steel, and I kind of lost interest because I I'm into some conspiracies, but once if you can't give me stuff to back it up, I'm just not gonna go along with it.
Yeah,
So he said you know all about Elvis.
a little bit. I'm a bit older than you guys, so I've lived a lot longer. And I certainly didn't live in Elvis's era, but I was a fan from a young child when he was still living.
Oh, I
Uh,
love Elvis. So do you think he faked his death?
no, I don't.
You think he died that day?
I'm not saying I don't think he may have wanted to. Um, had some that he, but I read a lot about Elvis. Went to Graceland a few years ago, and I don't know if you've ever been to Graceland. Have you?
No, I've always wanted to go.
First thing that struck me was it was smaller than what I'd anticipated. It wasn't small, don't get me wrong, but it was smaller than I anticipated. It wasn't like Michael Jackson's mansion. It was more of a plantation style, lots of rooms. He had a little room where he played pool and hung out with his posse.
The
But it had
Memphis
a
Mafia.
very low ceiling. It was not a very big room, and uh, and then you could go everywhere but upstairs. His family didn't. His daughter especially didn't want anyone. So that was stipulated when they opened Graceland that nobody could go upstairs, and there was conspiracy about that as well, saying that he still lived there.
Yeah, I've heard that Elvis still lived there.
But the issue was with that, she said was, and it was true. His bodyguards, I've seen it confirmed by them on interviews. He got real depressed there at the end and was dealing with his drug addiction and his finality, and he spent a lot of his most of his time in his room. So she had so many memories, she said, of that she just wanted to leave it exactly like it was and didn't want to dishonor him by bringing people into his private domain, which was his hideout from, that was pretty much his hideout there. But as far
Gotcha.
as Elvis, when I was talking to Mike last night, I was talking about that he was not a songwriter. And you're right, there's plenty that are not. But Elvis being the king of rock and roll, most of what he got was from the black blues. And,
Yeah, I read.
this, like That's All
Yeah,
Right, Mama, and stuff like that.
yeah. That a
That
lot
kind
of
all actually those black blues guys and girls, and like Big Mama Thornton and Rosetta Tharpe, they were the early rock and rollers. But
yeah, I've read that too.
he had a voice and a style that sort of not mimicked intentionally, but that was a style he developed because of his love for that style of music. And during that era, they would not allow anybody black to become that
I've
popular.
read that. I'd read that that's what they was wanting. They would at that time, they wouldn't allow a black person to perform like that way,
They
and
call
then
it race music.
yeah, but Elvis could pull it off, so they wanted a white man to do a black man's music.
But now he had the sound. In fact, a lot of DJs thought he was black, and at first, but because a lot of the white kids had never heard the music, never been allowed to listen to it, and was allowed to listen to Elvis. But if you noticed, he he dressed in a black style of dress culture for that era, with his bright colors and his cars, pink Cadillacs and all. He
Yeah,
had,
very.
yeah, he was. But now he wasn't a writer, but he was one to make a song his own, put his stamp on it, and make it.
Yeah, that's yeah.
He was not. That's not to say he wasn't a musical genius in that regard, in his later years especially. But no, I don't subscribe to the belief that he. At first, I didn't know what to think, but as years went on and years went on, it just didn't serve a purpose anymore. Why he would never surface, or why he would hide out. And I don't think he had any real knowledge. Most of the drugs he got was from doctors. His doctors bought, bought cars for him and trips. He would pay off doctors in an indirect way, and just staying alone, and then going traveling like that from city to city. He could hit up a lot of doctors. So he got most of his drugs legal, or all of his drugs legal. That's why he justified himself being a DEA agent in his mind, federal agent in his mind. So it was all legal, and he was kind of.
I don't think
So
he ever got divorced with Priscilla.
Yeah, that I think that was his demise. I know you're not an Elvis guy, so I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
And I love Elvis.
But Elvis was one of my first heroes. And you mentioned
Yeah.
George Jones. Let me tell you a little tidbit about George Jones. I met George Jones. I met his wife, Nancy. And it took him a year to record He Stopped Loving Her Today, that you mentioned.
Yeah, because
he was drinking and doing cocaine so bad during that time. Every time he started to go in the studio, when they'd catch him clear enough, he usually could sing. He said, I could sing most of the time when I couldn't talk. Slurred speech, couldn't talk, but he could sing. So they'd catch him whatever moment they could. It took a year. He said every time I'd start singing a song, it would come out sounding like Chris Christopherson's Help Me Make It Through the Night. That melody to He Stopped Loving Her Today. And finally got it. They get portions of it right. And they finally got the whole thing in the right melody. Which, think about it, it is a very it took him that long to record that song, and you were exactly right. He thought it was the most morbid SOB song he'd ever heard, and that it would ruin him. So you're right, he did say that. And
and it's greatest hit.
Yeah, one of the greatest hits ever.
Oh yeah, one, ever out there.
It was ever out there. But Elvis had a way of making his own style and creating a song and arranging it in a way that brought a life to it different and more powerful than the writer itself in a lot of cases. I wasn't putting him down, but he wasn't a songwriter, and in some regards he didn't really have time.
No, not the way it was torn. I mean,
Red,
the way Ellis performed when he would go down on that one knee and come back up and hit that high note.
yeah, yeah, he was, and he had so many songs. His style of music, um, there was so many writers that was feeding him good songs, and he just had such uh, a catalog to choose from. I guess that was part. Not that he wasn't able to. He was surely able to write a song if he wanted to. But
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
his main bodyguard wrote several hit songs. Did you know that?
But I didn't know that.
His Red West acted in several movies. He was in some war movies, and some of them were pretty decent parts. He made a movie right before I think he died, but that was pretty much uh, down his alley. He was a beat down guy, and he was a bodyguard for someone. But he acted in a lot of movies, and he wrote several hit songs. I'm not talking about just minor stuff, album fillers, but major hits. I can't think of all of them now, but he wrote several. So that sort of surprised me to hear that.
Well, who's your favorite country music singer?
Well, I have many. Um,
I do too.
it's hard for me to pin down one. I like the style of like Vern Gosling's voice. I like George Jones, of course. I like some of the current stuff, but I'm also a writer. About 75% of my YouTube channel is songs I've written.
Really, I'll check that out.
Yeah, so I I I have more regard for the writer than I do the singer in most cases because
See, I like country outlaws, Willie, Waylon, Merle.
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I
All
mean those.
those they were writers. William wrote his own songs. He recorded others, but they were usually other outlaws and he played a part in some of those songs. Didn't even take credit. Willie Nelson, some of those guys, Chris, would never even be considered for something like American Idol or The Voice.
Oh, absolutely not.
But when you're the songwriter, it has, and you feel that song, it comes across like the Outlaws. It comes across a lot more, I don't know, heart touching, uh, real, you know.
Yeah, they can feel it. I guess one of my favorites was Poncho and Lefty.
Yeah, Pancho and Lefty, and Ray Charles was did
Seven
country.
Spanish Angels.
He never opposed doing country music. He did the whole country album. But yeah, I like songwriters. The outlaw movement is big. Um, I'm just now starting again. I don't know how much you know about my past, but I worked 31 years in the prison system. I was on an indie label in the 90s in Nashville. I was as an artist and a writer, and I had to make a choice. My dad was dying with cancer, and then children began to come, and I had to make a choice to be like some of those guys that were going to make it or hell or high water. Family, and I had a career, and they were about to give up on me as far as promotion and stuff like that. Because they thought I was singing full time at home too. Paid my dues. I was singing about everywhere you can imagine. Visiting
Really?
experiences and meeting guys and some of the things they've been through and stuff like that. I'm a human, and it would touch me, and I'd try to be as understanding as I could without, violating any policies or rules. And then my own life experiences is, reflecting my life. But I like a writer better because if you think about it, they're not all the greatest singers in the world, but you think they are because they're so sincere in what they've written.
Yeah.
At least that's my take on it. You asked me who. There's so many that I like, and some today I like. But a lot of stuff today I get tired of hearing about
Well,
pickup trucks and songs that don't really have much substance. Um,
yeah.
and
It's almost like
regarded,
country music. I mean, not country music. It's almost like rock today.
Well, it's like
Um,
it's pop. It's
yeah, it's not. I mean, I like the old song. I mean, one of my favorite ones was "A Good-Hearted Woman Loving a Good-Timing Man."
yeah, Waylon's
And
and
uh, that fit me in some access to a T about he likes the nightlife, the good time, and
yeah,
not,
he was telling
he
the truth.
likes the nightlife, the good time, friends. And when the party's all over, she'll welcome him back home again.
That's right. Yep. Starts out, and you know, and then finish. It's a great song, and it tells a real story. And
Boy,
it has,
smoky old pool rooms and Clear Mountain mornings.
yeah, songs like that. And there's other songs I like too, but there's a lot of stuff now out now. I asked Merle Haggard not long before he died what he thought about today's country that's played, and he said it sounds like a bunch of crap to me. And he said, be honest, I'm not putting down artists. Some of them I like. He said, but for the most part, it sounds like one. It's like one track of electronics. And Tom Petty said the same thing. People that were not in country genre, but that era, talking about the people. What we're missing is realness. No recording was ever real. Waylon was the first one that, when they started the outlaw movement, one reason they called him outlaw because he was the first one that went into Nashville with all their and little clique. He was the first one that demanded to use his road band to record his album, and they weren't going to do it, but he insisted, and he was so strong. They let him, and when he did, that started the outlaw movement. Then him and Willie went to Texas, made it so big in Texas, Nashville couldn't deny him anymore. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, that changed country music. He used his own band. Before that, and even in my time, there was a group of about 10 guys that played on everybody's album that hit. From Porter Wagner, you name them all back in the day,
Porter Wagner.
played on every song in the studio. All the artists played, and then the musicians would learn it the best they could when they went on tour. But in the studio, there was a list of musicians. It was so you ever heard the term wrecking crew?
Yeah.
Well, there's a guy I met on YouTube that complimented some of my music, and his name was Bill Aiken. And I didn't know him from Adam, I just thanked him for his comments. And he started trying to send my stuff to people that were in the business, but they were all older, I mean, much older. But he was a member of the wrecking crew. And so I had a lot of conversations with him. He was like in the 50s, he got involved, but he said from the 50s till like the early 70s, the wrecking crew was a group of about that same number, 10 or 15, that recorded everything that you heard from the Doors to the Monkees. When the Monkees started their show on TV, they had all
Yeah, I
the
used to watch
tracks
them as
recorded
a kid.
already. They just went in there and sang them. And the Beach Boys, they played all that. Some Elvis, all Sinatra stuff. The same musicians played it in the studio, and they were called the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, I love Sinatra.
And never got credit for it. Made a lot of money, but never got credit. And he was one of them, and he tried to help me, but his contacts were at fault. They were.
Yeah, I was listening to, I pulled him up, I was listening to some of Hank Williams III sing, and God, he looked and sounded like his grandfather.
As long as I've been in country music, but I like other genres too. I'm like you. I'm from the South, and what comes out with a country sound. I was so heavily influenced. Everything doesn't. I sang other stuff, but it was more Southern rock type stuff. When I was in high school, Marshall Tucker Band, Leonard Skinner, Charlie Daniels, they were all played on rock stations along with the
I
rock and roll.
love Charlie Daniels.
They didn't play them on country. I hated them on the country stations. But yeah, so that's what got me into the music. But I like other genres. It's, my problem is call it what it is. I wrote a song. It's on my it's on my YouTube. Call it what it is. If it ain't country, uh, not that I
You
don't
talking
like genres. I do.
about David Allen Coe song? If I ain't country, you can kiss my ass.
Yeah. And the ride, that was a powerful song.
Oh man, that ride still gives me cold chills every time I hear that.
I
I
met
knew there was something.
I met the writer of that song, Gary Gentry.
Oh, I thought you meant the ride.
We're friends on Facebook, and he's posted several of my songs on his channel as a friend, probably, and to help me out because he's such a hero of mine. But a guy named Gary Gentry wrote that song,
Jerry
and
Gentry.
Gary Gentry, look him up sometime. He's got a lot of songs on YouTube on that topic type thing, and when he automatically posted, and some he's posted, but he wrote hits for a lot of artists, country. I like I like I like a more gritty singer that has passion in what he's doing and wrote it a real. I do a beautiful in tune. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm talking about my own personal feeling. What you're talking about, the outlaw crowd.
And Chris Christopherson and
Yeah.
I guess my favorite lines, one of my favorite songs is "All My Rowdy Friends Settle Down," and
Oh yeah.
is Waylon staying home and loving Jesse more these days, and
Yeah.
Chris is a movie star and he's moved off to L.A.
Oh yeah. Well, see, those songs are so different, and I've sang all those songs over and over many times, and they're so
Oh, you
different.
can sing too?
What's that?
You can sing too?
Yeah, I sing and I write, but I
Sing
sang
me a chorus of Hank, man.
right now. I got this flu, so I can't really
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. You told me that. I'm sorry.
I couldn't really represent myself too well,
Yeah. Well, I'll have to get you to do it for me one time.
but I'll be over it. I mean, and if you want to check me out on YouTube, yeah, I got about 100 songs. I guess I hadn't counted them. Most of them I wrote, and most of them it's just me and guitar, and some of them are me and some of those two or three I recorded in Nashville. I was in Nashville on the indie label. We had to sing songs for other writers that didn't sing, and
Yeah.
we'd sing those. And a lot of my songs, I had 24 published, but most of them went to like regional artists that came to Nashville and paid to have an album made. And my producer, Tommy D. Donaldson, um, he would, sell them a package and give them the rights to the song. So I made very little money. I got a lot of experience from it. Met a lot of people. Partied with a lot of the stars, and because we'd hang out the places when we had the time of night, where the writers and the real the singers hung out and partied. We didn't go to the tourist area. We didn't have time during the day because
Did you ever smoke weed with Willie?
You ever smoked weed with Willie? No, but
I love the song "I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again."
that's an awesome song.
I'll never smoke weed with
I
Willie
was
again.
for being honest all these years about his smoking. He got arrested down here in North Carolina, about a little town about probably 40 minutes from here, in Kenansville.
Is that when he was on the bus?
Yeah, he wasn't even on the bus, but they went to the bus to figure it'd be an easy bust, and they called it. They found some moonshine, and they found a bunch of pot. Nothing, I mean, trafficking type, but a good stash. It was Willie's, but he happened to not be on the bus. And of course, the county commissioners and the sheriff and all them, they killed that by the wayside real quick because, uh, because it brought in such a crowd for their little town, and he was just passing through. So they dropped all of it, but he did. His bus got arrested. He never did.
I love that other song Willie's got, Gravedigger.
Yeah, I like everything Willie's ever written. He
I've
started.
ever heard his gospel song "Unclouded Day"?
Oh yeah,
Oh man, I love that song.
there's a lot of versions of Unclouded Day, and in fact, I have some gospel songs on mine. A couple I wrote. One is just called simply "Thank You, Jesus." It's not pretty much admitting my own failures and faults, but thanking Jesus for carrying me through. But and I've done some old classic Southern hymns like that too. But the Willie Nelson and Billy put a lot into it. That's a favorite of mine too. But some of the other artists good too. But Willie has always done some gospel, like Merle Haggard did too. You don't see that much today with these artists.
No, you don't see that at all. You don't see that old country.
And
Um,
but uh, yeah, it's hard for me to say my favorite of all singers. It's interesting how people say certain ones are mimicking certain ones. Merle Haggard actually, when he was a young man, mimicked almost word for word Lefty Frizzell. And
Lefty Frizzell, God, I love Lefty.
Lefty has influenced so many artists. If you listen to Merle Haggard admitted it. He said, I tried my whole career to sound like Lefty. And Lefty brought him on stage when he was about 16 or 17. And that, sparked an interest till Merle uh, had a few bumps in the road, ended up in prison for a while. But he said one time, and of course I could relate, being my career with prison. He said, he said, I learned to be a good man and an honest man while I was doing time. They said, what do you mean by that? He said, because when you're doing time, you tell a man that you borrowed something from, that Friday at 12 noon, I'll give you 2 packs of cigarettes or whatever he traded. And he said, if you're not there, you're going to pay a price. I developed the habit of doing what I said if I said it, I did it. He said, that helped me to become the man I am. And he said, I carry that on the force, through the.
Oh, and I love David Frizzell too.
David Frizzell. I met Alan Frizzell. I could tell you a story about him, but I won't. I met him in a bar on Printer's Alley. A friend of mine and I were singing at. And here he comes in. He sounds just like his brother, too. He sounds more like Lefty than David does. But he's become a Christian now, and he does mainly Christian music. But he tore it up. He was like him, drinking and drugging days real strong. And he was really interested to talk to. I sat at the bar, and we had a few drinks and talked about Lefty and talked about whatever he wanted to talk about. I just let him talk. Enjoy the moment. Stewart, Johnny Buster. I met a lot of people like that, but of course, I gave it up. It was my own doing, and finished prayers at home and finished the prison system. And since I retired, I picked up my old songs and started writing again, and I want to start performing again. I've got a lot of gas left in my tank. I'm ready to quit. That's what I always wanted to be doing anyway. Did my best to finish the prison career. Glad I made it out safe and didn't get killed.
Yeah, some pretty dangerous work.
It is, but I'll tell you something, Chris. People have such a misconception. It's a topic that I never could really, isn't like other jobs you can go home, tell your family about, or take your family to your work and show them your work. I never had the opportunity in a prison. But I also think it is. I met the best men that ever lived in prison. And I met the worst that ever existed in prison, too. I met some of the most talented men I've ever known in prison. Guys in prison they could find a way to make a cigarette lighter out of an electrical socket. They can make pocketbooks and purses out of potato chip bags and cigarette wrappers. They turn them out and fold them a certain way, and they'd have a whole pocketbook that looked like something you could buy in a store. And the artists and the sculptors, the tattoo artists. I was kind of hard on that because I let the other stuff slide because you take everything from somebody. And had no way of doing nothing, but they trade stuff with each other, and that's how they survive. But tattooing brought about so much disease with hepatitis B and AIDS because they thought they were being safe by cleaning the needles, but they were dipping in the same ink on everybody, and that ink was
Mm.
contained with blood. I tried to explain to them, but get off topic sometimes. What I was mainly saying is, prison has, when I say some of the best guys I ever known, because most people walking in society never stop to take an inventory of themselves. They never get in a place where you're locked up away from your family, and then
Yeah.
too much time that your family don't even come around anymore. And
Hmm.
and those men who have done that, taking inventory of their life, I've seen them get out of prison in 3 or 4 years, have a house, a new family, a new career, a good career, because they're so motivated and and become and never go back to prison. So they are people that come out much better people. Then you get people that go in when they're so young, they're not even the same human beings they were when they went to prison. And
Yeah.
then I realized that there was some that were not guilty. About 5 or 6 since I retired had been released through DNA evidence that I knew, and they told me they were, not guilty. But I just tell them, I say, I'm not here to judge your guilt or innocence. I have no control over that. Some of them
Uh,
I did believe.
there's no telling how many people that are locked up, you know, that we've convicted. And a lot of it, I've seen stuff with eyewitness testimony. Unless you know somebody, eyewitness testimony is the worst testimony there is.
Well, yeah, and you get into things like, and I'm not saying this in meaning any kind of racial motivation behind it. I'm just telling the facts that I've seen. Sometimes certain people have a hard time thinking different races look alike, or identifying race. I know
Yeah, I know
one,
what you're.
and it happens. And it happened to one guy I know. He was a black guy, and he was convicted of rape. He had never committed any other crimes, never been in trouble. He did 23 years. There was a woman that I forgot how details transpired, but she come to the conclusion that he was not the man. So did some research and realized that the man that's doing time had the same DNA. There's another one, a young white boy who was 18 years old, convicted of rape of a 12-year-old in a project they lived in. He was poor and he had nothing but a court-appointed attorney. Well, when he was 18 years later, a thing called Project Innocence in North Carolina, students that's going to law school, they took his case. They found a guy in prison that I also knew had matching DNA to this little girl's nightgown that she was wearing. He was convicted, and this guy, and I won't call his name, but he was released, and it took 18 years of his life, and right before he had caught that time, he and his girlfriend had got pregnant, and he was never even there for the birth or anything, and his son was like almost 20, 19 or 20 when he got out.
Never
So
even knew the guy.
I was told when I was interviewed back in '79, they said, Mr. Kennedy, which they called me Mr., but I was just a kid. Yeah, you know how to tell when a convict's lying? And I said, no, sir. Well, the way he looks, I said, no. What does he act suspicious? He said, no. Every GD time he opens his mouth. And so that's the way I was instructed, that they were all guilty. And it took me through many more years of my career to realize that when I began to see people released after DNA came about, that we had people locked up that were not guilty of anything. Even those that are guilty, a lot do turn their lives around. You get tied up in this system where some of the district attorneys are more interested in making a name for themselves than they are and maintaining their position than they are justice and fairness.
Oh, I know some guys like that.
Not,
Um,
but enough to. Uh, but I'm
yeah, I
talking.
know.
You talk about something.
Oh, what do you want to talk about? You know, you into conspiracies or?
Well, I to a degree, I'm interested in listening, and I watch programs on some of the old UFO stuff and the conspiracies that y'all talk about, JFK, and all that.
You watch any of our videos?
Well, I've only just started. I didn't even know y'all had them till about a
Yeah,
week.
we've got 3 or 4 out now.
I watched one last night. I was gonna watch the rest of them. What y'all have, and so yeah, I'm sort of into the conspiracy thing. I don't. Uh, it depends on the topic, you know.
Yeah, I'm a big Kennedy buff. Always have been since I was a kid and studied that case.
Well,
I enjoy the debates
hey,
with Mike.
it's it's an interesting case regardless, and I don't really. I think just a personal feeling that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, but I can't say. I was telling Mike the other night. I said a lot of things in life you can't. I'll never say 100% because I can't say that.
Well, see, I don't think he fired a shot.
And I don't have and so there's so much detail now that that people have included. You don't know what's true and what's not.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do your own research and go back there and find your own stuff on it.
There's a lot of the grassy knoll. I remember hearing about that as a kid. In fact, I remember the funeral. I was only about 3 or 4. My brother cried like a baby, and he was 5. My mother was trying to console him, and and he said, "Well, why are you crying so hard?" As a 5-year-old, he didn't know that much about the president. Come to find out, Chris, he thought it was our relative.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he thought it was his uncle or something. He was all, and yeah, he thought it was a relative. But yeah,
What
I
about?
remember seeing his little son salute when his daddy came by. I didn't understand it. I was just a little boy, and but I remember that. And then years later, as a teenager, I began to hear about the conspiracies. During that era, there was so much going on that I keep my mind open. I don't close my mind and listen, and I still find it interesting when I hear discussions with people that, like you say, have some basis of what they're saying, not just saying they believe this or believe that. Um,
Yeah, that's basically what that guy was saying with Mike. He was just, he didn't really have any comments or anything. Me and Mike know a lot about the case. And,
yeah,
our last one, we went back and forth on the stuff on Daily Plaza. It was a pretty good debate. We had a debate about Oswald in the bag and, where Oswald was at the time of the shooting. You know, I maintained he was always on the second floor. That's just have to watch the videos and see the evidence on it. You a sports fan?
well, my main sport is I don't I used to follow football. I don't anymore. I watch the Super Bowl. I
Roll
played
Tide?
I played in high school. Uh, I played everything at one time or another, but I was more of into outdoors. I like boxing, but I can't really debate that because I don't know about a whole lot about the boxers' names now. I watch a match occasionally. But that's my favorite sport, boxing, kickboxing type style too. I like that. But no, I can't say that I'm an avid sports fan. I can tell you anything you want to hear.
Been a Southern boy. What do you think about my boy Trump?
Who?
My boy Trump.
What I think about Trump?
Yeah.
Well, be honest with you, when the election was going on, I I wasn't a fan of Hillary or Trump. In fact, I liked some of the stuff that what's his name, Barney said, and other stuff that was way too far out there for me. But I think sometimes, the way I see it, we need change, drastic changes in our country for it to continue to be balanced.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, sometimes it helps, regardless of where you stand. This is my opinion now, I'm telling you, just my opinion. I think that it's good to have somebody with more liberal views if they're fairly honest people, which you very rarely see in politicians. But and then you need to be followed up by somebody very conservative. But one thing about him I like, not necessarily that as president, but I appreciate him speaking his mind.
I
I
love that.
I think foreign policy wise, right or wrong, I think that we need somebody at this point that some of the world leaders think are crazy enough that he will pursue whatever action he says he's going to pursue.
I
Even some
agree
in
because
our own country need to think this man's crazy enough to do it. I'm not saying
we,
I
we're,
agree necessarily, but I think that it's needed. So,
yeah, because
uh,
we've let so many world countries just run over us and dictate what we're going to do.
right. And I know the character of some pretty bad guys, and I know some guys that would take advantage of weakness in a minute. And same with this Kim Jong Young or whatever his name is. He's just a psychopath who's also a childish narcissist. And people like
He's
that
like a
are
little boy
capable.
playing with toys.
Yeah, and they're capable of doing what they say they're going to do. The only thing those type react to is fear. Even Putin. Putin,
Yeah, and
he
Trump.
would be. So in that regard, I think Trump is good for us. But it's hard for me to put myself in a basket. I never do politically because I think we should look out for the poor. I don't think that children should suffer whether their parents are drug addicted or not. These things have to be brought into the world. So I have a mixed bag of beliefs. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I believe in people just fall into either side, into either category in this world as far as politics.
Yeah, and Donald Trump's not the man to play brinksmanship with.
No, 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 it's not. But
Um,
I don't believe that I I believe that in America people should be able to have the same health care, quality health care as somebody who has a lot of money. I have a problem sometimes with sending addicts to prison for the simple addicts and not dealers. We have an opioid epidemic going on now, and cutting them off, putting them out there in the streets, shooting heroin. But really, we could spend that money in that treatment centers for people that are addicts, because I think it's a disease in most cases, and most are good people. Not all, but most. It's like everybody else. It's good when bad, but
well,
it's an
see, I'm of
addiction.
the opinion that there should be no prison time for nonviolent felons.
Well, I could understand your point there.
I mean, because I don't understand. Like, there was a guy who was his brother was a kicker in the NFL, and he got caught coming across the Mexican border with like 30 pounds of pot. Well, this guy got like 27 years in federal prison. So he has to serve 24 years in prison before he can get parole. You could kill somebody and wouldn't serve 24 years in prison.
Right. In the old days, there was an old black man I knew that did 38 years for stealing a little small black and white TV from a prominent lady in the community. And I'm not justifying him stealing it, but he's not fit for society. He don't know how to function. But he was released after 38 years, and it was all just you know because of who this person was.
38 years.
I
I'll
have
tell you that.
no tolerance for people who abuse the weak. Cruel people enjoy somehow in a cruel way abusing weak people, sex offenders, child sex offenders. Um, I think most I saw did like 3 years. They were very passive, but to me, they should have had life in prison. You're thinking,
Yeah, I have no tolerance for that either. I have two nieces, and
or
uh,
rapist, or any sex offender. Not some need some help, some is driven by addictions, but whatever it is, don't need to be in society.
well, I see the thing about like with the child molester and a sex offender, they're not going to change. I mean, they're always going to do that.
No, it's a perversion that's too ingrained. I've seen it. It just can't. It's something that can't, like a serial killer. It can't. They can't get it out. They just can't rise above it. And there's a whole lot more people that's sociopath than people realize.
Oh,
Social,
absolutely.
I've recently read that there's like 1 out of 100 that are sociopaths, but most are not violent because they want to succeed. A lot of politicians, successful heroes and soldiers, and there's categories where they fit in real well. But there's sociopaths in the workplace that will do anything at all to get ahead. Dealing with a sociopath, dealing with someone who's just feigning emotions. They don't have emotions. They don't feel love. They don't feel empathy or sympathy. They don't feel any of that. So when you got people like that, they don't even walk in society either.
So I take it you're pro death penalty.
In some cases, but I think that since DNA and all is kind of put me on the fence a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that because we put some people to death, but I think there's some crimes that are so heinous that it deserves the death penalty.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I believe that it's because people complain about, oh, well, this person shouldn't sit on death row for 20 years. Well, I'm of the opinion that every appeal should be exhausted. Everything should, you know, go to make sure that we have got the right person before we put some.
Yeah, I agree with you on Chris, but the problem is, in my time in the system, I worked death row, and most deserved what they had coming. They were vicious criminals and heartless people. But at the same token, they had so many appeals. By the time the appeals were through, some of them had made changes in their life. They had matured. They would never probably repeat that offense again. I would say I oppose death penalty, but if it's handled properly, and then you have the corruption within the system, like I was talking about some prosecutors and that kind of thing.
What made you decide to go into the correctional facility instead of being a law enforcement officer?
Well, corrections is law enforcement, and to a stronger degree, a lot than street cops, because we don't just sit and watch. I hate the term prison guard. In North Carolina, this year we've had 5 correctional officers killed.
Oh yeah.
And we do what the police do in the society, but we do nothing but felons every day, every hour of the day. We don't stop by and have donuts or coffee, or we don't take a break and text. all day long, every day for your whole career dealing with criminals who a lot of them stab you in the back if they had have a chance.
Right.
We'd have to deal with the crimes that are committed within prison, and there's a lot of them. We have to deal with all the things that outside law enforcement deal with, but a lot more of it. So correctional officers, in my opinion, are one of the most underrated law enforcement.
That's a good point. I've never thought of it that way.
We don't, we don't mingle with the public and get a chance to stop and talk to Joe at the service station, or, the time I walked through the door when I was 21 years old to the time I walked out. Every day I was locked in with them. We can't carry firearms inside. We do when we transport. We do perimeter. We have to file like in law enforcement in a serious. But yeah, inside we're outnumbered. All we can carry.
Yeah, number bad.
Yeah, they take it from us. You can't fire for so many rounds. We bring it in if it was in the event of a riot, but it would be from the outside defense. So we have to do the same job with our bare hands and what little tools we have as far as batons or pepper spray. And we're talking about people who've been convicted more than career criminals. So I think that's very underrated. Kind of look at us like security guards. It's far, far a world within a world.
Yeah, I didn't even like a few times I had to go overnight. I can imagine
most
being in there.
officers were scared to death to take their weapon off to come into the prison system. For whatever reason they had to, they just couldn't fathom having to walk in there barehanded with nothing. But,
No, I can imagine that.
They were so used to having that as all the time.
Do you carry a weapon?
Do I carry one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I carry. I can still carry too. They're trying to pass a law here in Alabama where you no longer have to have a permit.
Doing the same thing here, last I heard.
Constitutional carry, which I'll probably still get my permit because other states recognize it. And, when I go out of town a lot, so I always want to have it with me.
Chris, can you hold just 1 second?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind.
Not at all.
I've drank several cups of coffee, so you know what I mean.
I got you.
All right, hold just one moment. I'm back. I apologize to you, brother.
Brother?
I've been doing a lot of talking. Why don't you talk? I'm not the greatest one to discuss conspiracy with, and I'll tell you why. I offer all for feedback and what I think, but I'm not one to argue with people about their political beliefs or their religious beliefs or conspiracies. They make sense. I just don't. I don't. If I don't have an argument, if I don't have an argument to counteract what they're saying in any kind of way, I just shut up.
Yeah, I'm like that too. You know, people's going to believe what they're going to believe, and I try not to argue politics or religion with people. You know, it frustrates me that you know, I hear this stuff, not my president. I'm like, well, you know, what if the roles were reversed and Hillary got elected and us Trump supporters were acting that way?
Yeah.
You know, it'd be totally, you know, backwards, you know,
Yeah,
down here in Alabama.
I don't like that on either side. I don't like
Yeah.
seeing. I've always
Down,
respected our president. We still live in the most just, in my opinion, country uh, in existence, and I'm talking about the people. My love for America is the people because we always unite when it's necessary and needed. But don't I don't like people being. I've always referred to the president as the president, not just their name, out of respect, whoever it is. So,
yeah, and I try to do that too, refer to him as President Trump, President Obama, you know, President Bush. Um, you know, I just think there's some kind of respect that comes with the office, you know, that um, a lot of people don't give now. Um, and I don't know if it's ever going to change. Seems like this country's got divided. They're so far to the right or so far to the left.
that I agree with you. It's worse than I've seen it, and I've lived longer than you, and I haven't lived back in the days of well, I lived back long enough to remember a lot of some of what y'all discussed, but I was living back in the days when civil rights and all that came about. I saw the when I was a little boy, and and it's worse now, I think, than I've ever seen. I don't know what the reason or answer is. Uh, it is more divided in more than one way. In several ways, it's more divided than it seems like it ever has been. And people are so open, and they have the freedom of speech, and I'd fight and die for that right, whether I see or disagree. But sometimes refrain from saying certain things.
And now, I mean, I've lost friends over the fact that I voted for Trump.
Yeah, you'll be attacked. You get on. I don't argue politics on Facebook.
I usually put a lot of good. What I do is I put pro-Trump memes on there, and then just wait for people to start attacking me.
And it'll happen the other way too. If either way, it's going to happen. But I don't. That ain't my thing. I like music, and my Facebook page is family and children, my grandchildren, my children, a song or two now and then, music. I don't. If people start arguing about something, I don't put them down. I just ignore it and let them speak their mind because they have the right to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll voice my opinion, but as far as me getting right down arguing with you about it or getting mad, I'm not going to get mad. You know, there's way too many things for me to get upset
No,
over.
already. You don't get mad in your opinions. Everybody has their own interests. I think it's a great thing you and Mike are doing. It's I could definitely enjoyable to watch, and I'm sure it's enjoyable to y'all.
Oh yeah, we have a great time with it.
And you're knowledgeable in the subject you're talking about. But I'm not.
Yeah, me and Mike both know what we're talking about on these things.
There's aspects of the government and how it works and how it operates. I don't know about and haven't researched, so I just shut up about it Or I just look like a babbling idiot just talking about something I have no clue. And
Well, there's probably things our government does that we really don't need to know.
well, there's some things we don't need to know. I was talking to Mike last night. We were talking about Area 51 in Roswell and all that. And I told him my philosophy on that was I think that it's always been used as a testing ground for new weaponry and aircraft and that kind of thing. And it has to be maintained. Secrecy has to be maintained. So if it got out, that would take away the whole purpose of creating
That's a
the
pretty
weapon.
good. That's a pretty interesting take because I've seen some people go out there to Roswell, and I think it was Jesse Ventura. I was watching him. They got fences up, and
I
you know,
saw
as soon
some
as
of that.
yeah, as soon as he pulls up, then all these other vehicles pull up, and these dark SUVs, and they get out with machine guns. Um,
Well, like the stealth bombers, they were tested. And if you were in that area and you looked up in the sky and all you'd ever seen was a B-52 or a jet, and you see a stealth bomber, you're going to think it's a UFO. And then, as far as UFOs and aliens, I watch that sometime, the ancient alien kind of shows and all that. But the problem I have with that is if they came, assisted society and civilization into forming, buildings, whatever they did, why did
well, I believe
they say
there's other life out there, and I believe they've probably actually visited, but they're obviously non-aggressive.
well, yeah, because if it's happened like has been alleged, they've been visiting for a long time, so they had plenty of opportunity and technology for they wouldn't even have to fire a shot, just um, a germ or bacteria that like we killed killed off multitude of Native Americans
Oh yeah, with
our
genocide.
own, through our own bacteria that they had no immunities to and our own viruses. I mean, they could have. So obviously, if they exist, they're not aggressive. But
I
I
mean, I
don't think.
watched this interesting show one time. There was this lieutenant general in the Air Force in Iran, and their radars went off that something was in their airspace, and they scrambled jets, got behind these guys, and then just speed up to where they couldn't see them, and then just slow back down. They was right on top of them. Then they got orders to fire, so they launched on them, and there was like these shields that popped up that blew their missiles up.
Right.
Um, you know, and another thing too. I mean, you've seen all these pilots claim to see these things. I just can't believe that all these pilots are lying and making this up.
Well, the only thing I can say about that, Chris, is just I don't know if it's wisdom with age or seeing things over and over. A lot of that. If I see it followed up by a book at the end of the story, that pretty much tells me a whole lot. How many times have you seen back in 2000, Y2K, all the computers are going to crash and the world was going to end and
Yeah.
hell and havoc and all that was going to take place because, um, the computers had no way of turning over to 2000. It was just going to end at 1999. And, I've sat on the porch and I had no belief in that at all. But I do have a strong belief in, I think I mean, me as an unworthy sinner, I have a strong belief in that Jesus Christ is in control, and I had no fear of that. But look at all the conspiracies. When I say true or not, whatever, um, all the claims that the world was going to end with this, the world was going to end with that. One of the dumbest things I ever heard of was after the 9/11 thing. I don't know if you remember it, but it was telling us how to. You remember when they had the codes of orange, red, and all that? What level?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, but the dumbest thing I heard was this came from a government source to tape up with duct tape your vents and stuff like that to prevent local attacks. And you might not remember that, but that did happen.
I don't remember that.
Yep, it happened. And that was, of course, the terror alerts were, in my opinion, were about as effective. I don't live in fear of any of that. And I think,
Well, I think that was all part of the helping the Bush administration get elected, because you notice after he got elected, those terror alerts all of a sudden stopped.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how
I
you
mean,
can even I don't know how you can even judge such an alert. Um, I don't know how you would. It's too big a world and too big a society to know what's going on. And I guess it's a way to appease or to feel like the government's doing something for us. I don't know. And in some cases, I guess that's a smart thing. I can't say. I'd have to be in the White House and know what's going on to say I don't know.
well, I think with this North Korea thing, we need to go ahead. If they want a war, let's give them a war.
Well, my only problem with that is all the innocent people that have been, and sometimes it's unavoidable. You have to, just like in Hiroshima and World War II with the atom bomb. A lot more people would have died had they not. But I think in
Well,
my,
I'm not advocating nuclear weapons. I'm just advocating go down there and roll through them like a hot knife through butter. I mean, our conventional military would destroy them.
well, yeah. Back many years ago, Gaddafi and um, what was his country? I can
Libya.
Libya. I want to say Lebanon. I couldn't get Libya out my mouth, but Libya. He was a real pain, and he was threatening all the time. And I think it was Ronald Reagan at the time, but he was doing that kind of
86
stuff, and he bombed his own house, almost killed him.
killed his son.
And it said that he missed him by a minute or two. And after that, Chris, I never heard to this day until they drug him in the streets and killed him. Another word came out of his mouth about America. But I think this Kim Jong Jong, I can't pronounce his name, but I think that idiot is too narcissistic to think superior. And he's fed that by his little underlings. Excuse me.
So
So I agree that if possible, he should be taken out. And he probably will be if he continues.
the only thing I'm worried about is, I mean, there'll be such a power vacuum that I'm worried about who's going to take over.
Yeah, who's going to take over?
Yeah, if we take Kim out, there's going to be a power vacuum. Who's going to take over that country then?
Well, it could be.
Unless we just rolled through their military and then reunited, North Korea and South Korea.
Well, yeah, that's a possibility. But if you take him out, the one who takes over would have it, unless they're like him, and he was bred that way from his father and grandfather, even to style his hair the same way. It would be somebody new that would have a fear instilled in them in the power of America. There's still countries out there don't realize the power we hold military-wise.
True.
And have to be shown. They really do not know. And just like with Desert Storm, we went into Iraq when they went into Kuwait. Desert Storm. I had a lot of friends that were reservists that went over there, and he said they went through them like they were butter. And
see, that's their
fourth largest military in the world, and it was.
And that's their main. That's North Korea, China. Their main battle tanks are these T-54s, T-72 stuff that's antiquated. The Chinese main battle tank still a T-34 that was a great tank in World War II.
Yeah.
But you put that against the Abrams that's going 60 miles an hour and can hit a moving target at night on the run from 2 miles away.
Well, that's a good example of what I'm talking about, Chris. It's a lot of most, if not all of the world's military don't know what they're up against if we really were compelled to use what we have at our hand. And there's things that exist that you and I don't know anything about. Just like
Oh
people
yeah.
the atom bomb, but we don't need that. Our military is such a trained military and has so many resources that they can go through. Like I say, Iraq was the fourth largest military in the world at the time as far as equipment and numbers, but they gave up out of the thousands, and we went through there like there was nothing.
Like a hot knife through butter.
Yes.
Just like this last one in 2003. I mean, we just rolled through that desert.
Well, see, that's the difference in America. No matter who our president has been, we can be as knowledgeable as we want to be or can be, whereas other countries their people are guided and made to believe that they're superior. They have to, indoctrinate them to believe that they're superior to America. We're all infidels, and they believe what they're told, and then they're taken by storm when we come.
Yeah, the
ability because they're innocent people. If there's any other way to do it other than killing innocent women and children and citizens, I'm not opposed to just nuking somebody or another country.
Yeah, I hope we're never faced with that again.
It's just too much destruction.
Yeah, and I mean, and like you said, so many innocents are going to die.
That believe what they've been told. Well, Chris, I better stop, partner. I need to call my grandson before he goes to sleep.
Yeah, man, call your grandson.
That's something I do every night, and I didn't realize the time.
Yeah, by all means, call your grandson, man.
And I'll be listening to y'all. I'll comment time to time, but I'm not really the greatest conspirator person to debate with, because I can't debate what I don't really know about or what I.
Well, our next segment with Mike and Rod again is going to be about Parkland, so be sure to watch that one. Check out the other videos.
All right, brother, I will, but let me give my grandson a call.
Grandson, Bob. Nice talking to you, brother.
Take care.
All right.